Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Raymond. Yeah, I'm the digital marketing consultant from Exabytes. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my screen, right? Okay, so I'm actually very honored and actually happy to actually sit in here in the webinars to share with you guys, all the insights and everything which I will share later on. Right, so my topic for today is much more focused on B2B marketplace. As during this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of businesses actually being affected. Yeah, okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to actually put in the chat box so that we can actually discuss later on together. All right, so without further ado, let me get into the other slide, which is the agenda. Okay, so there will be three sessions that will be shared by me for the sharing today. All right, so the first one will probably on the impact of COVID-19 and also the common export lead generation methods. Right, because I think that for the COVID-19, for this pandemic, a lot of them actually being affected. So I will go into this impact and etc. And for the second one is the how B2B marketplace can actually help your global B2B sales. Okay, because you might be like using all those traditional methods to do your exports, in order to get all those lead generation and etc. So because during this pandemic, a lot of users actually stop from there. Yeah, so we must have at least some of the alternative or something to actually help your business to grow because your business still have to go on even though the pandemic is there. Right, so for the last session will probably the 5 effective and also the simple ways to actually get more sales inquiry in the B2B marketplace. All right, so let's get to the first one. Right, so how has COVID-19 changed the business? So I believe that a lot of businesses has been affected, but some of the business like in protective items industry, they are doing well during this COVID-19, but mostly of the business are being affected during this pandemic, right? So as you can see, COVID-19's impact felt on Malaysia's export figures, and Malaysia's export of 425.5% in May amid to COVID-19 pandemic. And Malaysia's April's export for 23.8% and sharp declines in Malaysia's exports, which is as the conclusion, COVID-19 has caused a huge drop in export business. Do you guys actually agree on this statement? Maybe you can just put in the chat box like yes or no, agree or not, yeah, so that we can have a discussion further to let me know actually how's your business. Maybe some of your business are being good, doing good during this pandemic and etc. Feel free to share with me in the chat box, right? So that we can learn from each other as well. Okay. All right. So I'll proceed to the next one. Okay. So this one is basically talking on the common global market lead generation, which is the most famous, 4 famous methods that we commonly used by the exporters in Malaysia for the exporters as well. Okay, so the first one will be the referral. Okay, actually referral is a very good way to actually get those export sales, also lead generation for your business. But you need a lot of, how to say, a good relationship with your customers, yeah, with your business partners, or even though with your friends or someone to actually refer some of the sales for your company in order to have a long-term relationship, so long-term sales for your company as well. So if you have a very good relationships and also with your customers or your buyers, etc. So congratulations, you are getting a very good lead generation and also very good long-term export strategies, also the sales for your company. Okay, so for the second one is country agent. Right. So based on our experience, a lot of our clients actually are relying on a country agent in doing the exporting or export sales. So most of them will have a country agent at least one in any other companies or any other countries like in China or in Korea based on their targeting country. Right. So this is actually a very good strategy as well if you have a good relationship with the agent. But I will actually ask you, is your distributors or your agent is the sole agent or sole distributor? If yes, congratulations. But if not, you have to actually have the risk or the that your country agent will probably abandon because abandon your products and also abandon for your sales, because you know they have the higher bargaining power, because they are relying them on these their countries, because they are the one who market your products in the country. So mostly of the people in that specific country, they are more familiar with their company other than yours, right? So make sure that you are like engaging with sole distributors who do not like taking any other brands other than your products, right? Okay, so for the third one is very famous among for the locals as well, also for the outsiders as well, which is the overseas exhibition. Yeah, so a lot of these exporters, like to use overseas exhibition to actually get their sales inquiry. Yeah, because it showcase all your products when during this exhibition. Yeah, but they do have a limitation for now, because as the COVID-19 pandemic, yeah, all of the people cannot be travel, not just in Malaysia itself, but also in any other country. So I would say that in 1 or 2 years later, the overseas exhibition also cannot be held. All right, so here's come with an alternative, which I will discuss later, which is to can be represent or can be an alternative for the overseas exhibitions in order to get you more sales inquiry for your export sales. Right. So for the last common method is digital marketing. Okay, so you must be saying that I'm up to trend now. I'm using digital marketing like Google or Facebook, because these two are the most famous platform for digital marketing. Yeah, and I would say that congratulations, you're actually using the right way. But if you are just focusing on specific country, like 1 or 2 countries, then digital marketing might be suitable for you. But if you want to like target all of the countries around the world, digital marketing might bring some cons or some limitation for your company. Yeah. So for example, you're targeting for China. So Google or also Facebook wouldn't reach for China by using digital marketing. Yeah, this is one of the limitation. Another thing would be you will need a lot of research, a lot of time, and also higher investment by using digital marketing to reach different kind of buyers in another country. Right. For example, because every of the search behaviors, from any other countries are totally different. For example, they're searching the searching in US and also searching in China are totally different. So you have to do a lot of research to actually understand about the markets, to understand about their buyers' behavior, their country behavior, and etc. To drive a better or a professional digital marketing campaign to your lead generation. Right? So you guys might be share with me like any other methods that have been left out other than these four that you are currently using for your global market lead generation. Do free to actually share in the chat box there so that I can know, I can learn as well. All right. So let me go to the next one, which is, okay, because I want to highlight for the overseas exhibition, how and what it is actually involved. Right. So basically, because overseas exhibition has been used by a lot of people, they've been relying on overseas exhibition. So what and also how it involved for the steps and etc. So for the first one, absolutely is traveling. Yeah, you need to travel from Malaysia to any other country like China, if the exhibition is in China or in India or Dubai. Yeah, so you need the traveling. You need to travel by plane or by flight, something. So the traveling fee is there. And for the second thing is you need to prepare your exhibition. You need to set up the booth or something, yeah, for the product preparation. So imagine if you are the machineries manufacturers, you probably need to bring out your whole machinery, your products to that specific country to showcase to your client, which is like a little bit inconvenience. Yeah. So of course, you actually need to involve a manpower. Of course, you're not just like going to the exhibition alone by yourself. You also need to bring along your team, or your employee to actually help you to market your products in that exhibition, so that you can actually bring up a very good result. And for the last one is high investment. Of course, because based on our research here and also based on our previous client portfolio, the minimum that need to spend in overseas exhibitions is roughly 10,000 Malaysia ringgit. Okay, and this is just excluded for the traveling fee, the accommodation, yeah, and etc. So I would say that the overseas expansion is actually a high investment compared with the alternative, which I will share later on after this slide. Okay. So you must be like wondering what is the alternative way and how this alternative way can actually help us or help you guys in your export sales. Okay, so I'm going into the second section, which is how B2B marketplace can help your global B2B sales. All right, so the marketplaces that I'm mentioning is Alibaba.com. So I believe that mostly of you guys already heard about Alibaba, but exactly what it is, but maybe you guys still are not that into it, right? So actually, Alibaba.com is the world's largest B2B marketplace. Yeah, they're already connected to the whole world. It's like 196 plus countries around the world. So every of the countries, the buyer can actually access to Alibaba to see your products and also to buy your products as well. Okay, so Alibaba already have 40 plus of industries that's actively selling in Alibaba with the 300 plus of active inquiries per day, which is sent by the 10 million plus of active buyers in Alibaba. So you can see that actually Alibaba is a very big market that already connected to every of the world that, that link up the buyers and also the seller together to make the deal. Right? So this is how Alibaba actually works. Right. So here's is like, you must be wondering that, okay, I know about Alibaba.com. Yeah, it's a B2B marketplaces, but how it actually works, what is the steps and something in between the buyers in purchasing the products from me as a seller. All right. So the first thing, of course, you need the buyers will need to search for your products by specific keywords, and then they will actually see your product listing in Alibaba.com. Yeah, in all those marketplace, and they will click into your products to see about your product descriptions, the price, the minimum MOQ, and etc. in your Alibaba product listing page. And then if they're okay to go through with the descriptions or the prices, and then they will send you an inquiry to ask for quotation or an invoice from you. All right, and then we make the deal. So after you receive the payment and everything, so you just arrange for the shipment with your logistic partners, and then the deal is there. Yeah, I would say it's much more simple, and much more convenient in trading in Alibaba.com. Okay. All right. So here's some of the I would say it's like the benefits or some of the features in a B2B marketplace in Alibaba for your business. Okay. So the first one is, of course, you can post unlimited products and also videos for your company in Alibaba.com as a seller. Right, so you can put like specific videos or something to actually have a showcase about your products in 360 degree so that your customers can see the whole concepts of your products in Alibaba. Yeah, so they can have a better insight about your products already. Yeah, so for the second one is the product descriptions. Because in Alibaba, they cannot see and also touch your products. So the more information that you provide for your customers or your buyers, the better the results. So they won't probably ask you more questions, about your products or something. So because everything can be referred on your product description page, right? So and for the third one, you can list out your company profile, like what are you doing, what's your manufacturing line, is there any other products that you are selling other than this kind of products, for example. Yeah, so they can easily go to your company profile to see any of your awards or something won by your company to actually build trust and have more information about your company as a corporate view, to actually buy from you. All right, so for the last one is, of course, the online store page. So all of the products that we've posted in Alibaba can easily search by your buyers and also go to your store easily to see, other than a product A, are you selling any products like products B or product C or something, so that they have a high chance for actually buy from you for any other products other than products A. Okay, so I'm going to this, okay, professional mini site design. So I believe the attendees here, all of you here, some of you already have your own website, and some of you maybe you're planning to actually have your own website as well. Okay, so may I know like what is the purpose of creating or or building up a website for your company? Is it like to actually give more information yeah, about your company, about your products, manufacturing line, or the build trust, you know. So all your awards and certifications can actually involve in your company websites. Yeah, so that your customers have a better insight and also better understanding about your what is your company's offering and how your company is doing in a right way. Yeah, the products or maybe you can show some of the manufacturing line or something, you know, for your customers to have a look. So same goes to Alibaba. So as a sellers in Alibaba, you can actually own a professional mini site design, which also designed from our team here. Okay, so you can showcase all of your products, all of your company profile, all those information and etc. in your mini site design. Yeah? So everything can be found in your Alibaba account so that your buyers can have more information and more information to actually refer, and then they'll buy from you easily. Okay, so here's a very simple questions. All right, so no matter like in every of the business or even you're doing business in Shopee and Lazada, right? You are driving any of the digital marketing or any of the marketing ads, advertisement or something. So are you still waiting, just like, you know, just waiting for your sales to come in? Yeah, maybe you can comment in the chat box and let me know. Yeah, anyone, maybe you can put in like, you know, by driving all those digital marketing campaign, all those marketing strategies and everything, the ads, everything, you're just waiting for your customers to come in. Right? So the answer probably would be yes, because this is normal. This is very normal. But in Alibaba, there's another platform which is so-called request for quotation, so-called as a short form as RFQ, which is the sellers can actually be an active seller in Alibaba, which is like this platform. Okay, because every of the buyers in Alibaba, they are mostly business people. Yeah, so they do not have time to actually go to Alibaba, you know, to search for the products or research about the products. So they will go to this platform. They will search. They will put in something information like how many pieces they want, like what is the products, which countries they are from. So you as a suppliers in Alibaba, you can actually go and quote them for these kind of potential customers. Yeah, which is like, as a conclusion, you're not just like waiting for your sales to come in. And in an alternative way, you can go and quote for your potential customers as well, right? So this is a very good features in Alibaba, I would say. All right. Okay, last but not least, so this would be the some of the, you know, because in e-commerce world or in the online world, the most important thing is to understand about your buyer. Not just in online, in any of the business, the most important thing is to understand by your buyer's behavior, your buyer's demographics, you know, your buyer's interest and etc., so that you can have a better data or a better strategy to actually target them in the future to buy your products. Right? So everything is talking about data, especially nowadays in the online or e-commerce world. So all the data analysis can be found in your Alibaba account as a seller. Okay, so for example, actually there's a lot of these kind of data, but I just like showing some of it, which is like slightly important. So the first one would be potential country buyer. Yeah, whereas you can see all the data, for example, like maybe Bangladesh, they are more prefer for your products in cookies. Yeah, for China, they are more prefer on your products on coffee. Right. So this data is not just like for you to use in Alibaba, but also for you to use in your future digital marketing campaign. If you want to drive some of the digital marketing to specific country in the future, so maybe you can use this data. You know, for example, in China, they're interested in your coffee, so you can focus in China in the future for coffee products. Right, which is a better insight for you to do a digital marketing campaign or remarketing to those potential buyer in a global situation. Okay, so for the second one is the visitors data, the industry average data, and also the industry leader data. This is actually a data for you to see the gap between your the average data that you need to achieve and also the data that you have been the benchmark for you to see like how far more that you can reach for your industry leader. So you can see this blue line is actually represent for your account. So this green line is actually represent for your industry average. In order for you to actually grow in Alibaba, so you have to achieve for green line here. And in order to achieve for your industry leader, you have to like maybe post more products or something using any kind of strategy, which I will share later on, to actually fight against your competitors in Alibaba.com in order to achieve for the highest industry leader. Okay, so for the third one, data will probably be the keyword analysis. Okay, so this keyword analysis can actually be found on your this data as well to actually let you know that which products actually have higher search. So you can use this data to finalize a better and also high search product title for your products to actually grow in Alibaba.com. So you can use this keyword analysis to actually research for some keywords in order for you to advertise in Alibaba, so-called what we call as a keyword advertising in Alibaba as well. Right? So all this data is actually very useful, not just like in your Alibaba account and also for your future digital marketing campaign as well. Okay. All right. So after you've been listening about the benefits, the impact of COVID-19, so you roughly know about like how Alibaba works and how's the benefits for the sellers already. So you must be like, the final objective will probably be how many sales can I get? It's like how many inquiries I can get. Is there any tips or any strategy? Yeah, so for this last session, so I would actually would like to share with you like 5 effective and also simple ways for you to actually get more inquiries in Alibaba.com as a seller. All right. Okay, so the first tip is to talk about increase or duplicate your product posting. You must be wondering why does it really help? So I can show you an example. So you can see actually these 4 products is actually the same, but with increase and also duplicate your product posting, it can actually increase 5 times more exposure and also inquiries. How? By which method? It's like with different product title and also different product photo to actually target different kind of country buyer. Okay, for example, if you're using different kind of product keywords, it can actually target to different kind of country buyer. So we can see maybe the search behavior of me and yourself is totally different already. So same goes to the country buyer. So maybe China's, they will search for this kind of products, for example, like Chinese New Year drinks. Yeah, maybe I will search for soy milk or soya drink, something like that. So the search behavior will be different already. So when you like duplicate or increase the product posting with different kind of product title, it will actually increase the exposure as well in your Alibaba so that China can see your products and myself also can see your product as well, which will have the higher chances for them to actually click in and send you an inquiry. Okay, so for the second one is like the product photo. So maybe you can imagine like, for example, in today, I want to buy a larger quantity for this kind of soy milk. So when I see this photo and also this photo, so which one actually grab my attention? If I want to buy a larger, of course, it's this one, right, in larger quantity. So I can see that actually it provided a big box, right? Compared with this one, just like a very small pieces, a small box like that. So I will probably, the photos that actually grab my attention is actually this one. All right, so I probably click into this one and also send an inquiry for you to ask more information about products and etc. already. Okay, so there'll be another sample, another example here. So you can see when I want to search for salted egg fish skin, so this probably will be the listing in Alibaba lah. Okay, so you can see maybe for example, I already missed out the first listing of your products for this one. So maybe in the future or in the bottom or in the second page or the third page, your products will be appear again with another keywords or another product title. Okay, so do you ever wonder like actually these two companies actually the same? Yeah, so it appears again, which is that increase the exposure so that your customers or your buyers can have high chance to click in your products again. So maybe they miss for this one, so maybe they'll click for another one at the bottom or at the second page. Okay, so this is one of the strategies as well. So for the second one would be the quick response rate. of course, me and you myself, you also prefer for the quick response rate by your supplier or by the seller. Okay, because in Alibaba.com, the buyers can actually see your data like something like this. Okay, so you can actually see all your response time, your response rate, to actually encourage them to send you inquiries. If your response rate are higher, and also your response time is lower. Yeah, so this can actually help you to close the deal faster as well, because in every of the buyers, also me and you as well. So you have to prefer like you prefer those those suppliers or those sellers who are like reply you within like a few hours, or maybe when they are doing in the live chat, it will be better, right? So I guess actually a quick response rate is very important. So it will seriously affect them in sending inquiries to your Alibaba account as well. So make sure you have a good response time and also a higher response rate in your Alibaba account. Okay. So for the third one, this is what I introduced earlier and so like explained earlier regarding the request for quotation. So because you already a Gold member in Alibaba, so you already you can enjoy all the benefits and also the features in Alibaba.com. Same goes to this request for quotation. So why not you just like actively search in request for quotation to search for more potential and easy to close customers. Yeah, so you can search by them like your requirement here. Maybe you can support for 300 pieces, 100 carton, 500 tray, for example. And then you can click quote now to actually send me a quotation, or actually discuss with them, to have a conversation with them, in WhatsApp or in email, so that you can get a deal there. But yeah, still of the deals cannot be done. This is normal, this is very normal, but at least you actually get your buyers' details, their contact details, their email, and etc., so that you can build relationship with your buyers. Yeah, maybe in the futures, they'll probably buy from you again, in not just in Alibaba, but they do in offline as well. Okay, so this is so-called what we call as a lead generation. Okay, all right. So for the next tips is like keyword advertising, which is so-called we call as a KWA. Okay, so in Alibaba.com, they will free you like credits for 2,000 something minimum for you to advertise in Alibaba. So you can see this KWA keyword advertising actually increase your, how to say, it will rank your products higher in Alibaba.com, because in Alibaba is a marketplace. So mostly the buyers would actually send in inquiry for the sellers who have a higher ranking and also higher exposure in Alibaba account. So make sure you use the keyword advertising so that your products can be ranked higher compared to competitors, so that your buyers can actually see your products first compared to your competitors one. So they can see the example. There's an AD here, which means they are doing for keyword advertising, right? So absolutely, they will be ranking higher compared with those who are not doing keyword advertising. Okay, so make sure you fully utilize all the features and everything in Alibaba.com in order to get more sales inquiry to come in. And yeah, for the last one, the last tips is actually participate yourself in the March and also September Expo or any other events that be held by Alibaba.com. Okay, because like in Shopee and Lazada, they are more focused on Double 11, Double 12, but in Alibaba, B2B marketplace, they are more focused on March and also September. This is so-called what they call as the sourcing day. Okay, so there'll be a lot of traffic to be coming into Alibaba.com during March and also September. So make sure you participate in this kind of expo so that you can get a lot of inquiry during this March and also expo or any other events organized by Alibaba.com. Okay, so that's the end of my sharing today. So be sure if you have any problem, make sure you actually type into the Q&A session so that we can discuss later on. Right, so probably you need to understand more, about fees or something, the membership fees to join in Alibaba. There's a good news for the exporters in Malaysia, because currently Matrix has launched their E-Trade 2.0, and there's a 5,000 grant is available to claim for the exporters in Malaysia. Okay, so maybe if you're interested, maybe you can just put in the chat box like your +1, yeah, so that our team can contact you accordingly. Yeah, so there's some of the TNC apply for this grant as well. Yeah, so make sure you can reach us so that we can explain the procedures and also all those availability for you to apply for this grant. Okay, or maybe you can just like scan this my contact details. Yeah, scan this QR code in order for me. You can reach me easily by scanning this QR code so that you can really reach to my WhatsApp. Yeah, so that I can like pass it my team, or actually I can personally will contact you as well for Alibaba requests. Yeah, so don't hesitate to actually contact me by scanning a QR code here. Yeah, so that I can reach you later on. Okay, so that's all for my sharing today. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you, Raymond, for your sharing. So before we go into, the attendees' questions, I have a question here. Just out of curious, is there any criteria for the SME to actually get on board to Alibaba.com?
Okay, as long as there is no any criteria can be said, but as long as you must have a SSM registered company lah. Okay, so I would say like you must have the plan and also the objective in order to join in Alibaba, because you have to be actively, in Alibaba.com in order to get more sales inquiry.
I see. I see. All right. So our next question is there any charges to pay Alibaba B2B for item listing?
Yes, because they do have a membership fee, which is calculated annually. So the membership fees already including Exabytes assistance, yeah, for the whole year, which is like you as your backend team and also your consultants in your Alibaba account. So it do involve a membership fee, which you can contact me later on. Maybe I will share to you, how's the charges and how Exabyte can actually help you in your Alibaba account.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So next question from Nicholas. Can I quote to RFQ even if buyers are looking for different brand but similar product category than the one I'm selling?
Yes, Nicholas, is it? Yeah, of course. You can actually quote for, actually for this request for quotation platform, you can actually access to different kind of products, not just in the industry yourself. Yeah, so you can go and quote for different brand, similar products also can, up to you. Yeah, so if you are selling this kind of products, feel free to go and quote, in the request for quotation platform.
All right. So so far there's no other questions. So guys, if you guys have any question, please do not hesitate. Drop your question at the Q&A box. Then maybe we will answer that. And just curious for the MDEC grant. Also, is there any criteria or requirement to meet in order to actually grab the grant?
You mean for this one, am I right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so for this one, it's actually offered by Matrix. So at least you will need to become the member of Matrix. Yeah, so never mind. Maybe you can just like drop by a message to our team here, so that we can tell you the requirement and also send you some of the link and information to apply for this grant.
Right.
So at least you must to become the Matrix member in Malaysia lah.
So need to apply to be as a member, then only can apply this grant.
Yeah, correct.
All right. Okay, so our next question we have from Melissa. What is the delivery charges to deliver overseas? How do we pass over the parcel to courier agent?
Okay, so the delivery fees actually, we cannot give you a flat rate because this depends on your logistic partners. Okay, so you're mentioning about the parcel. So for Alibaba, it's slightly like a B2B platform, which is support a larger quantity. So I think, Melissa, you're mentioning for the B2C markets. Yeah, but if for this like B2B markets in Malaysia, there's no any fixed rate for the delivery. Yeah, because it depends on the countries that we need to actually ship to, and how is the quantity, and also how huge is your products, in order to ship to the specific country. So this one maybe we can bring you to our logistic partners, which is so-called Transcargo, to give you a quotation for this kind of a delivery as well.
All right. So we have next question from Nicholas as well. So how does Exabytes can help me in Alibaba? Because I'm more of a one-man show right now.
I see.
Mm.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, for Exabyte side, we are more towards in consulting and also in advising you. All right. So probably we help you to set up your account, which is like the product posting, the mini site design, in order to get you more sales inquiry. So for example, we help you advise you in the product title, in optimizations. So we advise you accordingly based on your account performance lah. Yeah. So normally, how to say, we have a backend team, a service team to actually support you for your Alibaba account as well. Yeah. So anything, feel free to actually reach us to our service team if you have any problem, any feedback, or any concern.
All right.
Yeah.
So guys, any more questions, please feel free to type into the Q&A. So yeah, so for just asking, yeah, for P2P, right, it's actually, I mean, for the strategy, it's actually a bit complicated than B2C, right, for your opinion?
Okay, I wouldn't say it's like much more complicated. I would say it's similar.
It's quite similar.
It's similar, yeah.
Okay.
But I would say like just now, like the tips that I'm sharing, like duplication and etc. is actually similar because all of the marketplace there's own formula, which is like 1 + 1 = 2. So if we are following for our guidance, and also our advice accordingly, definitely you can do good in Alibaba.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So so far there's no questions here. So I think you leave your email contact in the chat box below so that they can actually reach you out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they actually can scan the QR code to actually reach me.
Yeah, just as another backup way if they need
okay.
the email address. Yeah.
Sure. Later on, drop me my email on the chat box later.
All right. Thank you so much, Raymond. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yep. All right. So let us go to our next section. The topic is cross-border digital solutions, saving your business time, money, and uncertainty. Let's welcome Haddy Rohan Zulkifli, Chief Operating Officer from MoneyMatch. Hi, Haddy.
Hello, hi everyone.
Hi. I can't see you.
Oh yeah, just a minute.
Yeah. All right. Hi, Haddy. Yeah. Hi. So, if you are ready, do you want to set up your screen right now?
Sure. Yep. No problem. Let me just share the screen.
Yep.
Okay. See that?
All right. Yep. Can you make it into full? Yes. All right. If you're ready, the screen is yours.
All right. Sure. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thanks, Exabytes, for inviting us to talk about this and for hosting the webinar. And good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, my name is Haddy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of MoneyMatch, as Nicole said. And I'm here basically to talk about the cross-border digital solutions in terms of, helping your company go international. So yeah, let's begin. So why should your company go international? So based on like official trade statistics from 2019, total exports out of Malaysia was close to 1 trillion. Total imports was also, rounded up, it's close to 1 trillion. And of course, obviously last year was probably a bit of a down year, but I think the statistics were released recently, the preliminary statistics, and last year was only like a 6% drop compared to these numbers you see in front of you. So obviously, it's a very huge opportunity in making your company go international. It's a huge market to be had, and obviously, even a small slice of this, 0.1% of exports is already 1 billion, right? 1 billion turnover in a year. 0.01% is already 100 million ringgit a year. I think a lot of business people would be more than happy to see those kind of numbers in your revenue top line, right? So yeah, basically, we've seen quite a lot of growth in the SME segment. Generally, SMEs are actually the engine of growth in our country, from what you might see in newspapers and all that, and particularly the B2B2C segment. And last year we saw, quite a resurgence when everyone was stuck at home. We saw quite a resurgence in cross-border e-commerce. A lot of, people doing drop shipping, pivoting from the traditional businesses, going into, digital channels, whether it's on the service side, on the good side, right? There's also an increasing role of platforms and digital ecosystems. As I think it has been on on an ongoing trend in the last decade, but I think COVID and all that has basically kickstarted it, and it has changed customers' perceptions. They are more willing now to pay for convenience and bespoke solutions to solve their problems, compared to maybe previously where cost was like the main consideration. Now it's more of like convenience and speed and growth per se, right? And on top of that, we saw last year as well that digitalization, as I said before, has been spurred on by COVID. A lot of businesses had to adapt or die, right? So that's basically many people have adapted to the new digital world, per se. So moving on to the next slide, maybe we'll just talk a little bit about what constitutes cross-border transactions when your company goes global, per se, or international. So basically, these are sort of like fall into a few categories. These are not exhaustive, but generally speaking, you may want to make, as a business, you may want to make payments overseas for various reasons. Obviously, such as paying your overseas vendors, paying international contractors, or maybe even staff, right? If you're big enough to have overseas branches, overseas staff placed overseas. You could also be purchasing inventory, right? So for example, like previously, I think I'm talking about Alibaba, right? It's one of the big channels of purchasing inventory from China. I mean, that's not the only source of the goods and services, but for Malaysia, China is a very big trading partner of ours for good reason, right? Then there's also more sort of corporate finance sort of reasons for transferring money overseas. This basically covers things like transferring working capital, investments, or shoring up funding requirements, dividend payments, things like that, essentially. So traditionally, cross-border payments, cross-border transfers were done via financial institutions. They're typically banks and payment processors, usually like the credit card companies, or payment processors, intermediaries, if you will, such as like Stripe, at the end, places like companies like those, right? So if you can see from the picture on the right, it's a very complicated infrastructure, regardless of which way you go. And it's somewhat of a inefficient model because it's a very fragmented market, right? If you choose to go down the banking route, they have a very multi-layered structure, which is the top part, the corresponding banking model. And then, there are a few other players, depending, e-wallets and all that, which aim to sort of like simplify the whole process, right? But that's what they say in the front end, but in the back end, it's still, we're still relying on quite a lot of these legacy and complicated structures. It is also quite inconvenient because it can be very, the offerings can be very one-dimensional, per se, right? So if you want to do transfers via the banking system, transferring money to your vendor is a different process from collecting money from your customers, per se. For just one example. And then, for example, if you want to pay out by, for whatever reason, if you want to pay, let's say, for example, you want to pay contractors in other countries, but they want to pay in cash, you have no real way of doing that. You have to, do a telegraphic transfer to a bank account. Hopefully they have a bank account. If they don't, then you don't have any other choice, really. Aside from that, I think the biggest problem for business people, per se, is delays. Time is money. And I think with such an inefficient ecosystem in general, this leads to a lot of delays from the payment side as well as the settlement side, right? When you make payments overseas, for example, using the banking network, it can take, at best 2 days. At worst, it can be like 5-7 days, depending on where you're sending it to and if there are any problems. That's one part of it. The other part is, on the collection side, from the consumer perspective, maybe you may, as a consumer, you pay to the merchant. Okay, I pay, it's instant deducted from my account immediately, right? But on the merchant side, you may have to wait like 5 days for the payment processor to settle to you. So that's quite, that's basically working capital tied up in the time lag period, essentially, right? Another point out to note is that, a lot of these individual infrastructures, they're all built on a particular structure, which maybe was conceived, well, talking about Swift has been like, close to half a century, right? Some of the others are also not that much better. We're talking about 10, 20 years old. It's 2021 now. Some of these systems were like, when they came into being, it was like 1990s, 2000s. So yeah, coming up to 20 years. Technology moves very fast, and some of them literally cannot update to offer capabilities in line with requirements today. And then not to mention, lastly, this all translates to expense to you as the business person, right? In terms of, hidden costs, high fees, which, I guess in a certain way, you sort of pass on to your customer in terms of markup. But, if you want to grow your sales and do discounts, it's very difficult because your cost base is already so high. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about transfers via financial institutions such as banks, right? Predominantly, they use the SWIFT network, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about what the SWIFT network is. So the SWIFT network is basically, it's an acronym, SWIFT. So it stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It was founded in 1973. So that's about 48 years old. So yeah, it's almost half a century old, the system. And yeah, apologies for this because this is a PDF and not a PowerPoint. This is a sort of an animation here, but I'll just explain it. How it works basically is that the SWIFT network it doesn't actually facilitate funds transfer. It's basically a messaging system in between banks, right? Let's say I'm the sender bank. Let's say I'm a bank, right? And then I am the receiver's bank is, let's say, for example, DBS Bank in Singapore. So when you want to send money to your DBS bank account in Singapore, what you're doing is you're sending money to or deducting money from your Maybank account on this side. And the sender bank basically sends a message. It's not really an SMS, but it's like a telegram, right? These are all text-based messages, and they send it via the SWIFT network to the receiver's bank. And what the receiver's bank does is that at that point, they pay out of the sender's bank account with them in DBS Singapore to pay out on the other side. They may sound straightforward, but the problem is that, in between, it isn't just the SWIFT network. There's another, at least one, if not two or three layers in between the sender's bank and the receiver's bank. And these are called correspondent banks. And this is, typically this happens, especially when you send USD, right? And predominantly the currency of business is USD. So you won't be able to send to DBS directly. You will send to DBS's correspondent US bank, right? Which could be Bank of New York, JP Morgan, one of those banks, essentially. So the SWIFT network sends your message from Maybank to the correspondent bank, the sender's bank, correspondent bank in the US, and they send that message to the receiver's bank's correspondent message in the US, and then only it goes to the receiver's bank in Singapore. It's quite a roundabout trip just to, you think, from Malaysia to Singapore is only like what, 500, 600 km? No, it goes all the way to the US before it comes back, right? Being around for 50 years, the good thing about the SWIFT network is that it's basically the gold standard for the worldwide economic system. It links more than 11,000 financial institutions in more than 200 countries, basically most of the world, essentially. Talking about the fee structure, and now perhaps maybe because you understand a little bit about how it's structured, the sender bank may charge you a fee. Then there's additionally the correspondent banks in between will charge a fee, and the receiver's bank may also charge a fee. Right, so everyone charges a fee, and typically the sender bank will charge you all-in fee upfront. Typically in Malaysia it's somewhere between 70 ringgit and 100 ringgit. While they may say it's 15 ringgit, the 15 ringgit is only their portion. What you will actually pay is the whole amount, which adds up to about 100 ringgit plus sort of thing. It may be less, but that's just because they're subsidizing it, essentially. So maybe let's talk about the drawbacks of SWIFT. And these are quite common with utilizing the system. Again, we come back to this problem of it being inefficient, right? On one hand, while the SWIFT network itself is standardized, it's a standardized messaging system, the individual financial institutions may have different middleware in between, which are manual, right? There are even some Malaysian banks where there's no online banking. You have to go fill up the TT form. You have to go to the branch and fill out the TT form, and then only you can initiate the transaction. Yeah, and that's just the reality of it. It's still very manual, and perhaps they don't really have much incentive to digitize. Right? Can't say on that side. Aside from that, obviously because you have so many intermediaries, you're not just dealing with one bank or two banks. You're dealing with at least 3, if not 4. There's a higher chance of issues, right? It's messages can get missing, it can be lost, or sometimes messages go through, and then either the correspondent bank or the beneficiary bank has a query. It has to go back through the whole chain before it comes back to you, and then messages go all the way back again. This is not a 24/7 thing. It follows time zone as well and working days. So that's why it translates to this inconvenient thing of like a really poor settlement time of 3 to 5 days, right? Of course, this is on the worst side of things. Obviously, if everything goes smoothly, it can be fairly quick, depending on where you send it to. But yeah, whenever there's an issue, especially when you send it to China, is, there are a lot of requirements on their end from their banking system. And so if you don't get the documentation right on your side, if your bank doesn't advise you properly, then they're, as far as they're concerned, they're just a messenger. So it's like they will just be in between when your payment gets stuck ding dong for 4 or 5 days essentially. I think the other frustrating thing about the SWIFT network is there's sort of a poor information flow. Again, this relates to because there's so many parties in between. You don't know at which point where was the holdup, where is your money stuck, or what is the problem, who has the problem. You don't really know. So every time there are usually many cases where you send your money, payment for invoice, and then only when the recipient complains, oh, I haven't received the money, like 5 days later, you ask your bank, hey, what's going on? And only at that point they start sending a message, hey, what's going on, to the correspondent bank, and then correspondent bank says to the other correspondent bank, and correspondent bank says to the penny bank, and only then it comes back, right? And each step it may take 1 or 2 days. So it's really a very inefficient and poor flow of data. I guess the other part relating on to what I mentioned earlier about the fees, there's no real guarantee on the amount received because the sender may charge a fee for receiving foreign currency, and that's pretty much that's out of the sender's bank control because every receiving bank has their own policies. Sometimes they don't charge a fee, sometimes they do. So let's just say if I'm paying an invoice for $100,000 US, I send $100,000 US for my side. I expect them to receive $100,000, but then for some reason or another, the Beninese bank deducts $5, and then your vendor refuses to release the shipment because of $5, which is quite irritating, right? But that's unfortunately something that's not guaranteeable using the system. Talking about the expense of the system, obviously because it's inefficient and inconvenient, and there are many parties involved, this eventually gets passed on to the consumers who pay, relatively high fees because the cost base is high. And the rates wise, because of the long settlement time, banks are incentivized to put in a premium in the rates because they themselves know that, if, on average, if some transactions get delayed, they also need working capital to cover any shortfalls, essentially. So touching on the next part, we're talking a bit about technological solutions to this SWIFT problems, right? And a lot has been made out of blockchain. And how does it address the problem? So I'm not going to get too much into the specifics of blockchain technology, but in this particular use case, blockchain is basically like a non-editable ledger of transactions, essentially, right? It provides a clear data repository of transactions. So that is the main underlying characteristic of blockchain technology, which aims to which can be utilized to address these problems, right? And it really does actually address the pain points, right? In the sense that what was inefficient last time, where is something of some parties are manual, some are not. Everyone has different processing standards. Being a fully digital, I wouldn't say platform, but ecosystem, it forces everyone to adopt the same standards. As at the same time, you try to minimize the number of intermediaries. Obviously, the blockchain technology itself must be administered and maintained by a central party, but that's basically it. It's just that party, the sender and the receiver. There doesn't need to be anyone in between, really. That naturally translates to faster processing and resolution of issues, if any. Another benefit, obviously, is because there's less parties, and this is running on everything is standardized and digital. This can translate to real-time settlement, assuming that both parties are relevant, are connected in real time to their respective settlement systems, right, domestically. Again, by talking about blockchain, because it's a impermutable ledger of information, that's full information flow. The moment the relevant party access it, they can see, who sent it, what time it was sent, which part was it sent, what was sent. Everything is available to all parties of this network, essentially. And at the same time, because it's standardized, you can be transparent about the amounts each party is going to charge, and it can be built in directly, because the sender is talking directly with the beneficiary financial institution. So you can say, for example, like if the beneficiary financial institution says that, okay, yeah, I'm going to charge $5 per transaction, then the sender bank can basically build that into the cost, right? Essentially. Obviously, making a more simple digital ecosystem naturally should translate to lower costs. Basically, it encourages more direct links between financial institutions and encourages STP, which is straight-through processing. Basically, it's all system-driven and minimal human intervention, essentially. And liquidity provisioning, basically, with shorter processing times, basically it allows less working capital of the financial institutions to be tied up. And this should naturally translate to lower costs that they need to pass on to consumers in terms of fees and rate premiums that they charge. Okay, next. Talking about other alternatives to Swift network, right? So we talked about blockchain just now, but blockchain is basically a technology. We're going to talk about like the actual, how do business typically send? If you need to send money overseas, how do you do it aside from, utilizing the bank, in other words, right? So you generally have around three choices here. You have your payment processors, right? Your card processors like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. These are the big names. Then you have other intermediary payment processors like Adyen and Stripe, who aim to sort of streamline the process. I guess locally you also have people like IP88, GHL, and all that. We want to compare these compared to Swift. The fees and rates are generally high because the base is also quite high. At the end of the day, most of these guys are leveraging off the credit card networks owned by Visa and MasterCard. It's pretty much an oligopoly. So they basically charge their own exchange rates, and everyone's forced to take them. And fees as well the fee structures are quite complicated. So most people just set a fairly high fee upfront to cover all the various fees, essentially. And this basically gets passed on to the consumer. Transaction limits, generally these are meant for more of like merchant or small ticket type payments. So they don't cover like, you can't use your credit card to pay like a $50,000 bill there, unless you have, you're lucky enough to have like an American Express black card or something like that. That's a different story. But generally speaking, your issuing banks won't issue you such a high transaction limit. So we're talking only about like, transactional level, which doesn't really suit your business needs most of the time, right? When you make payments for the suppliers overseas. Is it convenient? Yeah, definitely convenient. I mean, they've basically built a very, robust ecosystem, and they've made the user interface very streamlined. So basically, you're paying a premium for its convenient service, essentially. Legal, obviously, all these guys are, regulated and have the relevant licenses, in Malaysia at least. So the second option to send money overseas would be through money services businesses. So for example, like money changers or remittance companies. Money changers, obviously, some money changers who have remittance licenses can do it. But basically, when you transfer money overseas through these companies, effectively, it's effectively remittance, essentially. So if you compare this to the other methods, the fees and rates are fairly low. The transaction limits are also unfortunately low because they have, I think in the regulations, the typical limit for money services businesses for B2B transactions are about 200,000 ringgit a day. That's the maximum. So, I mean, well, that may suit some smaller businesses. It doesn't suit, obviously, like, for example, my example just now, your USD 50,000 transaction, yeah, that won't fly because it's already today's exchange rate is more than 200,000, right? So you cannot transfer that in one shot. You probably have to break it into 2 days worth of transactions, something like that. Convenient, it depends. Some remittance companies are more digital and some are obviously a lot more manual. So if it's a lot more manual, then it's basically the same as going to a bank. You basically have to go there, fill out a form, do your KYC, and transfer the money there. Some of the more digitally advanced players, they aim to be more streamlined and more tech savvy in improving the user interface of businesses as customers, essentially. Money services businesses are governed by BNM under the Money Services Businesses Act, and is quite heavily monitored by BNM. Basically, any industry that involves transferring money in and out of the country are heavily monitored by BNM and have stringent requirements that they need to meet. So then the third, I would be remiss of me not to mention, the other method, which is Hawala. Hawala is basically like an informal system of, it's a very old system. It's like centuries old. It's similar in concept to correspondent banking, but instead of having licensed financial institutions in between, you just have random people or companies in between, right? So if that rings alarm bells, yes, basically it's extremely high risk and probably a bit for money laundering, which is why it's basically it's pretty much illegal and frowned upon. That being said, it does exist. BNM's always looking around for these guys, but they're pretty sophisticated and can get around it. Fees and rates, can be low, can be even mid-rate or below. But the risk is that you really question whether you can receive the money on the other side, right? And whether the person who's receiving on the other side, is it being received from a legal perspective, or is it just being some random person sending you money that your party A sends to party B, but then party B receives the money from some random individual account, individual Z, or maybe even worse, 5 payments from individual XYZ, so it's really dodgy in that sense. Transaction limits, obviously, this cannot be done on a large scale. So again, back to the example just now, your $50,000 transaction, you're not going to be able to do it via Walla, essentially. Convenient, it's not really convenient because you're dealing with individuals or companies per se, and obviously they're going to have to find some way to avoid tax or avoid that. So they'll ask you to do some complicated stuff. Maybe you need to withdraw cash from your bank account and give it to them in cash, which doesn't exactly engender confidence on your side, whether you're just handing over cash to some random person and you hope to God that the money receives on the other side. And and obviously it's very illegal. If anyone gets caught in this time, you can basically kiss your money goodbye. At the very best, at the very worst, you may be indicted for money laundering. That's even worse, right? I think the penalties for that are quite severe, essentially. So talking about this as well, maybe it's a good time to talk about how MoneyMatch comes into play. We are a money services businesses, and we fit into that realm. And aim to basically provide an alternative to SWIFT, right? And so, what we aim to do is basically to provide, as low fees and rates as possible. And the one good thing about us is that we have special ability to do high transaction amounts. We have approval from BNM to transfer more than, for businesses, the transaction limit is 10 times more than the normal limit. So our business customers can transfer up to RM 2 million per day. So that's more in line with your more medium-sized businesses. It's convenient. We've built a digital platform specifically to cater to business needs. At the same time, we have a fairly large team of relationship managers to manage each of our corporate customers and provide personalized service and information on the transactions. Legal, obviously, yeah, we're definitely licensed by Negara Malaysia, and I'll get a bit more into our history in the next few slides. So yeah, MoneyMatch. Basically, where our motto is rethinking finance, right? And basically, our goal is basically to try to make the financial system more efficient by introducing faster, cheaper, and more convenient ways to make cross-border transactions. That's our forte. We've transferred over 2 billion ringgit worth of transactions since the start of our operations in the middle of 2017. And we've built up our own in-house digital payment ecosystem through APIs with various global licensed partners and banks, as well as made heavy use of blockchain technology with our blockchain partner Ripple, which I'll talk a little bit more on in the next few slides. And at the same time, our user ecosystem is pretty healthy. We also aim to give good satisfaction to our customers. So we always make sure that transactions, we see it through from end to end, and it's not just, we're not just like a messenger in between. We really make sure that the transactions actually, go through as swiftly as possible from Malaysia to wherever it is you're sending it to. A little bit about MoneyMatch, we're licensed in 3 countries, Malaysia, Brunei, and Australia. And then we'll be expanding hopefully this year to Hong Kong and Singapore. Some of our achievements were we were one of the first entrants into BNM's FinTech regulatory sandbox. And we are up to date, we're the only graduate from that sandbox. So we've graduated from a sandbox startup to a full licensee, meaning we comply with all the regulations required to be a full money service business. We are also the first in Malaysia to pilot regulations behind it. At the same time, we're also the first regulated entity to be approved to execute live transactions on the Ripple blockchain network. Up to date, there's only 2, it's MoneyMatch and CIMB, and MoneyMatch was the first. We launched before CIMB. And as far as I know, we are making very heavy use of the network as compared to them. I believe CIMB, if you use SpeedSend via CIMB, it's using the Ripple blockchain network essentially. So maybe to talk a little bit about how do we do what we do, right? By leveraging technology as well as people to provide industry-leading service. Our service layer is basically we're connected via API, which is application programming interface. It's basically digital connection between us and other beneficiary payout partners, whether it's a money service business, licensed money service business in a respective country, or a bank account, or our own bank account in another country. Our platform is digitally connected directly with that, so there's no intermediaries. At the same time, we utilize the Ripple blockchain network to basically do the same thing essentially, right? It's the Ripple network basically aims to supplant Swift by providing that messaging layer. So we utilize both. Essentially, the point is that they're just digital direct connections to the end party as least layers as possible, essentially. So as I said earlier, we have a large, we are a 70+ strong team, and fully half of that, I think 30+ is basically relationship managers. So we do take our customer relationship management very seriously. Almost to the point, like, if you're a banking client, you won't even get a relationship manager until you're doing like maybe 1 billion transactions a year. For us, we aim for a more personalized service. So not only do we ensure that every corporate customer of ours has a assigned relationship manager, but we also have a full-time customer service desk as well that can answer any questions or queries, essentially. And we aim to obviously, address any queries as soon as possible and resolve any issues as soon as possible. And yeah, basically just aiming to do better than what the banks can do for businesses. Another key pillar to how we innovate and rethink finance is basically, automation, essentially. A lot of reliance on digital systems and making things more efficient and less human intervention where unless absolutely necessary, essentially. And a lot of our, in fact, most of our systems are basically built in-house. We outsource very minimally. So a lot of our systems we built ourselves and audited by BNM on an annual basis and approved, obviously. So a lot of it boils down to just making things more efficient and transferring those cost savings and scalability to our business customers, essentially. So our solution, basically, some of these are not quite relevant, but I'll just talk about them anyway. Basically, as I mentioned just now, at the end of the day, we're talking about building an integrated system, integrated digital system with as least layers as possible. So if we look at the image on the right, basically this is a rough representation of how MoneyMatch works. Right? Our users, which are basically the yellow hexagons on the right, whether it's SMEs, individuals, or financial institutions, they all have accounts with us. And we basically have API connections directly with our partners and our own bank accounts overseas to do disbursements, globally, essentially. At the moment, we do transfers to bank accounts only, but pretty soon we'll be able to pay out to e-wallets overseas. Some countries e-wallets are very popular. For example, like Bangladesh, Indonesia, Philippines, as well as cash pickups in those countries, bill payments, even card payments as well to a certain extent. So that's all things in the pipeline. But currently now, in the last 3 years, what we've been really growing on is our bank accounts, essentially, payments to bank accounts. And all this translates to basically improve pricing for our customers. We always aim to beat any bank's counter rates, and I think we can safely say that we monitor this on a very frequent, more than 10 times, because you'd be quite surprised at how much banks actually charge on top of the mid rate compared to what the cost may actually be. Right? Banks are easily earning margins of upwards of 3% from mid rate. And then comparatively, on our side, what we charge to, when we say charge, is like as in the margin built into the mid rate. For us, it's only like at most 1%, something like that. So it's quite a big difference. Obviously, it depends on the currency. Some currencies, the banks charge even bigger premium. For example, like Thai baht, right? So the savings is even more, obviously. Efficiency and speed is also something that we pride ourselves on. We process transactions within 1 to 2 days, as in your beneficiary should receive the money within 1 to 2 days, right? Regardless of where it is, and this is what we always aim for. Sometimes, obviously, there may be certain cases where this may be delayed, but whatever it is, we try to do our best to make it as short as possible. Certain currencies and corridors were extremely fast. For example, like Europe, we can actually, once it passes all the compliance checks and all that, the actual processing can be done almost instantaneously, actually. So, assuming all the documentation is in order, transaction can be received from your beneficiary within minutes, essentially. But of course, we don't promise that for all, because there are a lot of extenuating circumstances for different currency corridors and different recipient banks. But we try our best, obviously. And yeah, as we build our own platforms, we have our own mobile and web applications. For businesses, we have our own platform specifically for that called BizFX. Mobile is not relevant to businesses, that's more for retail customers. And the other parts down here, the other 3 points, these are not really related to business customers per se. These are more for like our institutional partners who we work with, where we do. So for, just to give you an example, we do partnerships with other partners to do disbursements into Malaysia and things like that. So yeah, you can see, although we have built our network and it services Malaysian business customers very well, but it also services a lot of other global players as well. So yeah, I think it's testament to how well we've built up this ecosystem to service multiple people essentially. Okay, so maybe I'll talk a little bit about numbers, right? Some 2020 case studies, right? So we won't name names, right? We'll just give you a rough idea of what these customers do. So customer A was a very successful e-commerce company. And last year, obviously, due to COVID, they had a huge spike in sales through their platform. And obviously, they had to source supply from their source inventory from their suppliers from China and Europe and all that. So approximately, we saved them at least 142,000 ringgit in terms of FX rates compared to the next cheapest bank rate that they could have got. And this is a very conservative number. This could easily be twice or triple if they had, for example, used a more expensive bank, right? Talking about customer B, it's a popular, it's a popular gaming computer systems assembler. There's only a few in the market, so you may be able to guess which one it is. So they basically use MoneyMatch to pay their international vendors for components and pay for software royalties. In terms of how much we've saved them compared to if you had used the next best bank, it would have saved them at least 73,000 ringgit. It's again it could have been more than that depending on which bank they use, right? Because you'd be surprised in Malaysia, the various banks have quite big divergences in what the rates they charge their customers, even if it's something as, for example, in this case, the example is mostly USD. But yeah, it can vary quite a bit in that sense. And then our last customer that I wanted to highlight was a software development company. It's quite interesting. So they basically outsource a lot of their development work globally. So they have a lot of independent contractors located everywhere, from random places like Estonia, Philippines, Vietnam. So they pay these contractors to do IT designing, marketing, customer support, and content creation work for them. And because it's generally like it's monthly salary per se, right? So every month they're doing like 30 transactions every month. Let's just say, for example, if the bank charged them 100 ringgit per transaction, every month they're paying 3,000 ringgit to the bank just for fees alone. We're not even talking about FX rates, right? So we estimated that we saved them at least 17,000 ringgit in fees alone last year, just because of the sheer amount of transactions that they had to do on a monthly basis. And that's just because we basically charge our fee structure is very transparent. We only charge like 8 ringgit flat fee for native currency transactions. So for example, SGD to Singapore, USD to US, VND to Vietnam. Yeah, we only charge 8 ringgit flat for that. So as you can see, 8 ringgit compared to 100 ringgit, it's a big saving already. It's almost like 90%, something like that. And just on one transaction. This scales immensely when you have a lot of transactions. Okay, talking a little bit about milestones in media. So up to date, we've got about 19,000 retail users onboarded. So those are individual people using us to pay for example, pay for their education fees for their children overseas in Australia, UK. Individuals sending money for paying for their maid salary, things like that. So yeah, we have got 19,000 of them at the moment. SMEs, we actually have about 1,500 active SMEs using our platform on a monthly basis. The actual number of onboarded is about double that, if I'm not mistaken, because not every company needs to send money every month essentially. But once onboarded, then they make use of our service as and when required. Some more than others. Yeah, and I think I covered the other two earlier on. Yeah, we've done about 2 billion ringgit worth of transactions in the 3 years that we've been in operation. And we've appeared in all these other media outlets and different articles. Although I must say that we're relatively low key when it comes to talking about our business solutions, because people mostly think of us as a retail solution. But the funny thing is that MoneyMatch, 70-80% of our business is actually servicing business customers actually. So we kind of go under the radar a little bit in that sense. We've also won some awards. We won the ASEAN SME award in the Singapore FinTech Festival back in 2018. 2018 was a year of awards for us. We won this Wild Digital Startup Disruptor Award as well by Catcha Group, and we also won the Malaysian FinTech Award in 2018. So that's coming up to the end of my talk. I know there's probably a few questions, but I will answer that after that. Thank you so much for your attendance and your attention. As a part of this presentation, we'd like to offer any potential interested parties who wanted to onboard with us. We're offering a few coupon codes for your first transfer, 188 ringgit off. And also, as on top of that, free transfers for the first 24 times. I believe some terms and conditions apply, but generally speaking, we're not really stingy with giving out discounts really, because at the end of the day, we just want to help our customers grow. And when our customers grow and do well, we also do well. And ideally, we just want to provide a better service to Malaysian businesses which are underserved by the banks. There's a QR code on the right as well, which I think if you're interested, you can register your interest by filling out that form. And I think Nico will later paste this link in the chat if I'm not mistaken. I think that pretty much covers my my presentation. Thank you so much. Let me just leave it on this page for a while. And then I'll leave it back to you, Nico. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haddy, for your sharing. So we have a few questions from the floor. If organizations like MoneyMatch can provide efficient transaction system, why can't big financial institutions do the same? Why are they still practicing the traditional SWIFT way?
Okay, great. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, people like, say, for example, CIMB did try, right? Like they did try to go on the Ripple network and try to emulate the same thing. You have to understand from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense for a bank, because although it's inefficient and all that, it's still a huge money maker. It doesn't make sense to make the system more efficient and then cut down your own fees and your own revenue, right? And the reality is that majority of businesses will not know that there's an alternative. So it's very location specific, right? Banks work on this, it's location, right? Let's say, for example, you're in some small suburb in Kanga or whatever, right? There's only one bank branch, a CIMB branch there. You're not going to go and look for, maybe Maybank offers better rate. How are you going to find a Maybank over there? So obviously they're going to go to CIMB, and CIMB is like, this is a small customer, a new customer, I don't know, can I offer you treasury services? Probably not, because you're not making that much of transactions. So you just take our counter rate, end of story, right? So I think for institutions, it's more of like, obviously it's tone from the top. Everyone talks about digitalization, but digitalization is very costly when you already have an existing infrastructure. You basically have to throw out everything and rebuild again from scratch. And when the engine's already running, you're not going to take the tires off the car, right? It's better to build a new car, to be honest. And most of them won't be bothered, because it's like, what's the ROI on that? It's actually lower than your current system. So there's really no incentive to do so. So that's my answer to that. SWIFT itself, as a messaging system, they also try to innovate as well. But again, they are limited by technology, because technology is 50 years old, right? There's only so much you can do. It's not like you can immediately turn it to something else overnight. Even if you did, if you made a sea change, you would have to get your 11,000 financial institutions around the world to adopt it, and not everyone will be willing to spend the cost to do so.
All right. So.
Yep. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. I hope this answers your question. So followed by the next one, which is the question that I actually want to ask as well. Is there any minimum amount required for per transaction?
Right. Okay. So this is a good question. Generally speaking, our minimum transaction amount is 500 ringgit equivalent. So that's roughly what USD 120 plus 125, something like that, right? Roughly that. But it's 500 ringgit. But it depends on currency. There are certain currencies where we are able to offer very low minimums, even as low as 10 ringgit, 5 ringgit. Certain currencies we're very strong in, for example, like South Korea, right? Or Indonesia, where we have very, very strong relationships and connections there. Yeah, we offer very low amounts. So even things which you would maybe previously use a credit card for or whatever, if we support that lower limit for that currency, yep, feel free to use that.
All right. So I hope this answers your questions. So so far we have no other questions from the floor. So guys, if you guys have any question, please drop your question at now, because Haddy is still here with us. He can answer your inquiries. So my questions, there's a few questions from me. So just wondering, is there any fees needed to create an account in MoneyMatch?
No, it's completely free. You don't charge any
right.
sign-up fees. Yeah.
All right. So how do I transfer via MoneyMatch?
Okay, so the process for businesses is you would need to register your interest with us. So unfortunately, the regulations are such that we cannot extend the eKYC onboarding process to businesses yet. It's something we're working on with Bank Negara Malaysia. So what you need to do is you need to register your interest with us. We'll allocate a relationship manager to your company, and they will set up a meeting with you or your relevant finance personnel to come to your business and do the relevant onboarding, right? So it's sort of similar to a bank, right? When you go to a bank, you register, you want to open an account, you have to provide your form 24, form 48, all those sort of things. Our guy will come to you to let you know all the requirements and get all those things done. Once all that is sorted out, then we'll give you we'll set up an account for you so you can access our BizFX platform. And from that platform, you can already start creating your beneficiaries and transactions.
All right. So so far we don't have any questions here. So Haddy, if you have any words or any wrap up for those SME who want to do, effective cross-border selling.
Yeah, sure. So I think in the with this increasingly digital world, there's a lot of opportunity for businesses, even if you're not traditionally not in that line. You want to go branch out into different business lines or expand your business internationally. You are, as a business, you're always looking to reduce costs. So here at MoneyMatch, we're just basically doing our best to help transfer all these technological innovations and efficiency improvements in terms of, and translate to cost savings to customers. So yeah, happy to try and help customers increase their margins and keep the vendors happy, and potentially even increase your sales by reducing your prices, because you can pass on your savings to your customers if you're so inclined, obviously.
Yeah. All right, so guys, if you guys are interested to know more about MoneyMatch or to get to know more their service and so forth, you can just click on the links that we have sent into the chat box, fill in the feedback form and claim the vouchers and etc. So with that, I would like to say once again, thank you to Haddy for joining us today and share about MoneyMatch and how it can help, SMEs to do even effective cross-border payment and etc. So thank you so much and we'll see you again.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.